How many of you are excited to start the conversation about building wealth mastery? This is a totally different conversation than we would typically have. You're forgetting why you're doing what you're doing every day. Like, why am I building this business? Like, where am I going with this thing? Like, you maybe don't have the vision for why you should be so motivated. In this conversation, I think this is going to really inspire you because it's going to give you a lot of clarity on like what to do once you start making money, which is going to motivate you to make more of it.
Yeah.
So we're excited to have this conversation with you because we know for sure there's a lot of conversations around making more money and getting better at money and earning more of it and doing all the things. But at the end of the day, it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. And it's not just learning to make it, right? The making is the hard part. I agree. Maybe part of the reason you're not making more because you haven't learned the game of money.
Yeah.
And you don't really know what to do with the money. Like I was listening to this radio show and the guy was talking about his parents and how his parents didn't really plan for retirement. And it's like they have all this money and they're like, oh, we're just going to give it to you and your sister. And he's like, Mom, Dad, you don't need to give us the money. Like you already instilled in us lessons on life and you helped us establish our character and to be people of value and have a work ethic and all these things. Like, we don't need your money. We want you to have your money for you. You don't need to give it to us. We don't need your money. And it's funny because, the guy was saying that like most people aren't even trained on how to spend money or what to do with their money. Like they don't even know what they're saving for. And what he said was, this is crazy. And I told you this.
Yeah.
They said that most people earn the majority of their money and spend the majority of their money between 40 and 60.
Oh, wow.
Between 40 and 60. So when people say, well, I'm going to save money for when I retire when I'm 65, 70 years old. And, that's cool. You should want to have money when you're that age, obviously, but let's also enjoy our money now,
Yes.
right? But in a smart way. There's so many people that as they make it, they spend it.
Yeah.
This is a business. There should be a percentage of that where you pay yourself and you put it towards something. You almost act like it's not yours. You're putting it towards something for the future. You should also think differently about the money you're earning as not income, but profits. Most traditional business owners, the profits they make in the first 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, they reinvest back into their business.
Yeah.
They don't even take any of that money. So I'm not saying for you to do that, but I am saying I want you to think differently about the money you're making. Don't just spend all the money you're making as if it's going to keep coming in.
Yeah.
In a business like this, there's going to be those ebbs and flows. I'm excited to introduce Nadya. Everybody knows Nadya, I'm sure. If you don't know, now you're going to learn today because she is brilliant when it comes to money. And she does such a great job of teaching principles that are super relevant for those of you, whether you have less than 10,000 to start investing and building wealth, or you have hundreds of thousands or millions. Like she literally learns from the best. She's in constant in improvement mode and wanting to understand intricate details about money, taxes, finances, retirement, investing, all the things that like most people don't even have a clue about. So can't wait for you to hear from Nadya, and we're going to have a great conversation with you.
I know, I'm excited. So we're going to keep it very casual and in hopes, you guys, that we can help you avoid the stupid tax. And then when it comes to wealth, as you start to accumulate it, okay, it's not about, first of all, how much money you make. It's about how much money you keep. But then you also learn, right? What is that one joke? When two people meet and one person has
when a person with money meets a person with experience, the person with experience ends up with the money and the person with money ends up with an experience.
Okay, yes. John and I have been on the side of the person without the experience that we lost the money and we've lost now 7 figures in bad ideas, bad investments, just we didn't know. And here's what I found, on your way as you rise to achieve that next level of success, sometimes we don't even know how to ask or how do you even understand the big picture where we're going.
Yeah.
So my hope, my intention with John for this training is to bring you some clarity and to really challenge you on your vision. Like, where do you see yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Like, it's a really, really, really important question to ask yourself.
When the economy is really good, everybody looks like a genius.
Yeah.
Every investment has great returns, right? It's like I always say, it's easy to be positive when your business is on fire, you're rank advancing, you're growing, you're crushing. The key is to be excited, to be focused, even when your business is declining, even when all hell is breaking loose.
Yeah.
So we learned a lot from some of these investments. And, sometimes, like Nadia said, we paid the stupid tax. So let's get into it.
We paid a lot of it for sure. The truth is, most people spend way more time planning their family vacation than they do planning their financial future. That's the fact. So 5 to 10 years from now is going to fly by anyway. But then I want to inspire you to think about now building your business number 2 that doesn't require any sweat equity for you to run and operate. But initially, you want to think through this as let's create this money machine on the side. And the most important financial decision that you can make in your lifetime is what is going to be the percentage that you're going to take off the top to dedicate to this money machine creation. Businesses have ups and downs, right? Stock market is going to have ups and downs. Real estate.
But you only lose money when you sell.
Right. Everything is going to be going like this, right? But how can we put you in a position where your family is insulated? How can we help you create your own economy? Well, you guys know this, and this is what they keep repeating when you talk about investing in wealth and finances, is you want to have diversification. You want to have multiple different income streams. So the first big idea is, where are we with your vision? What do you want to create? And I would get as methodical, you guys, and this is what I just did over the last couple of weeks, is we reviewed all of our finances. We created like a graph, and essentially took all the different things. I cannot believe we didn't have this, honestly, in one place up until now. Because once you get grounded in your facts, like where are we? Like what is your monthly income? What is the percentage that's going to go towards the money machine? What are your expenses? And maybe it might be really good for all of us here listening to look at our business credit card, our personal credit card, review the expenses now with your new awareness to say, where is the
How many of you have done this? How many of you have actually sat down? Because we've had this conversation before.
We have.
Like, how many of you have sat down and looked at your liabilities, your expenses, your credit card debt? Like, because there's no point in saying, well, I'm going to invest $50,000 over here and get 10% returns per year when you're paying 18%
on a high
exactly.
credit card.
So that does not make good sense to get so fixated on investing and setting yourself up for retirement and all these other things.
Yeah.
If you have these really high interest rates with debt that's been accumulating and you just can't keep up by paying, you can't pay it off with the minimum payments.
Yeah. So let me start with the fundamental formula for victory. Are you ready for this? The key to financial abundance is really quite simple. It's almost funny to say it out loud, you guys. Catch this, right? Spend less than you earn and save and invest the difference. What a concept.
Mind blowing. But you almost have to act like you're making less than you are.
You
have to lie to yourself.
You also need to get wise around the idea of how do we minimize your taxes. That is by far your number one, your biggest expense of your lifetime. And here's the truth, you guys, is that all of us have to spend the time on those activities that are snooze fest. I hate to break it to you, so you no longer
taxes,
have the luxury
paying bills,
to say, I don't have time to deal with essentially the most important piece of the money machine, right? Like minimizing taxes. All of us need to recognize that I don't care what level of success you have, some of the biggest, wealthiest, busiest people in the world, they get involved in the details. So, and I find maybe for some of us, the reason why we use that excuse in the past loosely is because we didn't see the value. We didn't see the vision. We didn't understand wow, that's actually incredibly important, because that's the difference between you being wealthy and between you maybe being rich, like having nice cash flow. But if the carpet is pulled from underneath of you, where are you? Let us save you from that. Okay, spend less than you earn, save and invest the difference. Then There's a second part to that sentence. Reinvest your returns for, you guys, underline this word. This needs to be our favorite word that we got to wrap our brains around. Then reinvest your returns for compounded growth until you reach a critical mass of investment capital that creates the annual income you desire for life. So what happens is, it's yes, we have day-to-day business operations. We're hustling, we're creating content, we're ATMing, we're prospecting, we're doing all the things. But now we have this bigger vision that we are taking 20% of our income off the top and we're putting it towards these investments over here, and now compounded. If you double a penny every day, you will have $5,368,709.12.
Cha-ching.
We don't understand the power of compounding until we start to do it, but it takes time. The 4 things you need to achieve wealth, number 1 is time, and you already have this. Number 2, you need compounded growth. You have this the day you make a decision to utilize it, yes? Then number 3, you need to make intelligent choices. And then you need some money, right? So yes, we need money. Yes, we have time. Yes, we need to plug into this compounded growth. And then we need to make intelligent choices. And this is where the difference between using a broker versus a fiduciary. That's a big difference. So next big idea. So we talked about your vision, right? And cultivating that, and then creating this beautiful plan. And in my books, everything starts, and for me, it didn't start there. So I hope you start there, but create yourself an Excel document and I called ours Melton Wealth Portfolio. Oh, just the minute you even begin a blank document with such beautiful language right away, you go, dang, I'm excited, right? So we create this beautiful document with your wealth portfolio. Then the next decision that I challenge you to make, and again, let's remind ourselves, this is the biggest financial decision of your life.
No pressure.
Is what is going to be the percentage that you're going to take off the top no matter what.
Yeah.
So what is the biggest lesson, you guys? Can we talk about it? And this is a lie that maybe some of us tell ourselves, that once we start making more money, we're going to be wealthier.
Yeah.
Well,
or I'll start investing once I make more money. I'll
Yeah.
start donating once I
Yeah.
make more money. I'll start investing back into my business once I start making more money. And it's the wrong mindset.
It is the wrong mindset. And I believe, I don't know where your faith lies, but I believe God will not bless you with a bigger territory until you show diligence with the current one that you have.
Right.
There's certain universal laws, principles that you cannot outrun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and it starts out with fundamentals. Like, you have got to be incredibly responsible with the monies that are coming in. Are we managing really well? Do we have a tax plan? Do we have our expenses under proper management? And I would challenge yourself to think about, what are the luxuries? What are the necessities? And you guys, we all have a money story. Like for me, I was sharing with John the other day, because I grew up in Russia and I lived through like this very volatile economy. But I remember one year where like my grandma was a saver, right? Like she would save every penny. And she had 40,000 rubles in her bank account. So we had crazy high inflation. So in 1 year, my grandma's 40,000 rubles, her life savings, became, instead of where she could buy 2 cars, a year later, that 40,000 rubles would buy 2 loaves of bread. The biggest takeaways, number 1, you cannot create wealth just by earning alone.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a big one. Like we have to then go into steps 2 and 3 where we protect our money,
Right.
and then we get our money to work for us. That's a must. And you cannot outsource that. Nobody is going to care about your money more than you do. But the second thing, I think sometimes we a little bit forget to ground ourselves in gratitude. Technology, medically, the things that are happening right now, you guys, it's absolutely mind-blowing. The biggest fear is running out of money. Like, can you imagine your life expectancy now is 100 years old, and at 83 and a half, and now
you run out of money.
And now AI.
Got to go back to work.
So now we're going to talk about an effective system that outweighs intelligence. That's really, really, really important, because one of the reasons why people fail at investing is they let emotions come in and out. Some people fail with investing because they try to time the market, right? You cannot time the market. It's impossible. There's too much data to show otherwise. It's about creating a very, they call it boring plan. You're taking a percentage of the top, you're putting it now into a vehicle, and on autopilot, that money is being invested. Now, the next question then becomes, all right, Nadya, it sounds genius. You know, what do we invest in? It's all about asset allocation and then asset location. Bucket 1, we call it a security peace of mind bucket. This is for your low risk, low return investments. Now, if you already don't have this in place, where you, first of all, identify what are your expenses on a monthly basis, how much money do you have to generate to keep your lifestyle as is, and you want to have that number in reserves for 2 to 6 months. We never want to think about a rainy day. I'm not a fan of speaking negativity into existence, but I'm a realist, and I know that things happen. And I know that sometimes, you guys remember the pandemic, you could not have predicted that, right? Sometimes things happen. Are you prepared if, God forbid, something were to happen and you need to rely on, you know, your investments or your peace of mind bucket 1? So 2 to 6 months of overhead, have some cash on the side, some guaranteed investments, potentially some treasury bills investments, something that's liquid that if needed, you're able to access, right? So bucket 1 is your security bucket. Bucket number 2 is growth risk, although I like to call it risk/growth. Now catch this. The investments that would be categorized into that bucket, think about no principal protection. And John kicked off this beautiful training with the quote, "The return of your principal is infinitely more important than return on your investment," right? So now you work really, really hard to create your income. And now we're taking a percentage. We're building up this critical mass on the side. We're keeping in mind a penny that doubles every day for 30 days to become $5 million plus. It's a long-term game, but you don't want to risk this money on risky investments. So if you have $100,000 and you put it into investment, and then that investment, let's put it through stress test, it now drops by 50%. Now think about how much longer it's going to take for you to recoup that initial money. And it's not going to be growth by 50%, right? Because if I have $50,000 and I get 50% return, that's not going to equal to 100. Now, I don't want to bore you with too much math, but math was my minor and I quite love it. But I want to kind of bring to the forefront that investments that sound really good, and this is where John and I have lost a couple $1 million. Let me give you an example of what would go into this growth risk bucket, right? So there's unlimited upside, but there's also a downside. Things like commodities, things like cryptocurrency. How many of us have maybe experienced the volatility of crypto? And something to be really, really, really cautious about is when everybody, including your hairdresser, is talking about a certain particular kind of investment. It's called greedy. Like there's a lot of greed in the marketplace. There's a lot of money. Everybody's making money. that's the time to be cautious, not greedy, right? But cryptocurrency, we've seen a lot of volatility. Gold, silver, indexes, real estate, stocks, other alternative investments. So something that for John and I, we recognize like, wow, actually a lot of our investments would fit into the category of risk/growth. And what happens when the economy does correct itself, right? The stock market corrects, real estate corrects, and you quickly identify like, wow, like these assets a stress test and they're auto correcting. Now the goal, it's okay for things to go up and down, but the goal is to be balanced out. So when those corrections happen, you have staying power. You guys, if you're taking notes, write this down. The biggest thing about investing is you want to have diversity of investments. You want to have that asset allocation between security bucket, between the risk growth bucket. You want to get clarity about your risk tolerance. Do you know what I mean? So if you have, imagine $1 million into your investment portfolio and you say, I'm pretty like risk adverse, like I'm okay with taking some big risks. And you say, you know, like if it fluctuates 5%, 10%, 20%, it's not a big deal, but put that into dollars. So if $1 million portfolio drops to 800,000, can you sleep at night, right? So knowing those things and then creating a plan to ensure that you have sanity, ensure that your sanity is not compromised because you didn't think through these little details is really, really, really important. If you look at your financial situation right now and you have some high interest credit cards and you go, Nadya, I have $10,000 to invest. What should I put it in? I would say the most important thing that you need to do immediately is pay off your high interest rate credit cards. That would be absolute first thing. There's no need to invest anywhere when you are, you know, when you have this high debt and you have high interest rates. So that needs to be paid off first, right? Now, bucket 3, let me wrap up on this beautiful idea. You guys, bucket number 3, I love. Bucket number 3 is called the dreams bucket. It's a beautiful bucket. And if you guys watch what we put out sometimes on our social when it comes to finances and different things, like I did not purchase my first designer bag until our business was creating so much profit. And then that profit already had investments, and then investments were making us money. And then that was the money that I then felt comfortable using to put towards the dream bucket. And the problem with so many people, you guys, is they're using their, you know, exchange time for dollars money, right? Their most expensive dollars, or worse, they're putting luxury dream bucket items on the credit cards and then paying 20, 25% interest rate. Do you see how that's a formula for disaster? You know, we need to unsubscribe from all that horrendous behavior. Bucket 3 is exciting. I think we need to catch a dream with that. So these are investments that will generate money that's free to spend on the things you really want to do, experiences you really want to enjoy. So this is adventures, this is boats, this is contribution. These are cars, designer clothing, high fashion, homes, islands, planes, sports tickets. What could be that item for you on the dream bucket? And then get excited about having it. This is the value of having a dream board. So important. But I would not go there until you got your bucket number 1 taken care of. Do you have 2 to 6 months in reserves? I would even stretch and say 6 to 12 months in reserves. So that way you're never in this scarcity.